I help save lives, but I'm not a doctor. I spot brain problems way before a human can. I'm a thing, and people call me AI. You all know that AI is increasingly becoming part of our lives. But do you know how these machines learn? Because if you don't, you're hit by this explosion of AI machines that affect every aspect of your life. Let me not just talk about how these machines learn. Let me show you. Let's create a brain. The beauty of modern day computers is all practical experiments that you can dream of, you can get it into reality with a flick of a switch. Talking of switches, they're amazing things. They turn on your lights on and off. They make your modern day computers. And they are neurons in your brain. When you connect these switches to make a strand, that's when you have a neural network, but a simple one. So when you learn, these switches change information flows between them. And the cacophony of these switch flips is what we humans call thinking. An ant has around 200,000 of these switches, and us humans, over 80 billion of them. Let's build a brain that's several thousand times smaller than an ant and see what it's capable of doing. Let's challenge a machine or a little brain, which is just 6 neurons, to identify regions on this screen that are orange and those that are blue. For this machine, you'll need to show it what is right and what is wrong, just like you would teach a child with examples, and test them with other examples to see if they get the logic right. For an easy problem where you have a donut to predict, our simple machine learns the underlying rules in no time, gets to the right solution. But when you throw complex challenge, that's when it struggles to settle in on a solution. If it had a voice, it would be saying something like, this problem is so hard. I'm just a tiny brain. So this is when you throw more neurons to morph the brain to something more complex. And it struggles a bit at the beginning, but it eventually learns. But what is wonderful is a brain that you see here is good enough to learn most of your physics laws that you have studied at college. There's Mr. Newton, and there's Mr. Boltzmann there in that small, tiny neural network. But most importantly, you should understand that humans are central to this whole process. We'll need to provide it with an initial inspiration for hypotheses, or in simple terms, you'll need to tell it what it's expected to do, and also check whether it's doing the right thing. But what about AI in healthcare? So at your own Royal Perth Hospital, we use these learning machines and expose them to patients. We collect your heart rate, your brain waves, CT scans, MRIs, pathology. But did you know that for patients with a brain injury, we also measure their brain pressure? Brain hypertension is when these pressure suddenly spikes, not giving enough time for clinicians to intervene. So the consequences can be pretty disastrous and can lead to long-term brain damage or sometimes death. Wouldn't it be nice to have something like a machine predict the onset of these pressure spikes and avert a possible doom? This is what we did. We had a machine that was trained to alert doctors an hour before such adverse events happen. The marriage of AI and healthcare gives doctors a new sense of looking into a patient's future. So it's good that we predict all this, but what is even better is we know what the machine was doing. AI in the past have been dodged with this problem that it's opaque to a lot of these why questions. You can't ask it why. It's like your daily horoscope. It's a given. But when we looked at what our machine was doing, we were kind of shocked, because it was looking at isolated heart rate traces, or ECG as we call them, at different points in time. This is new knowledge. I mean, you can't find this in medical literature. And this is beautiful because our machine does this high-dimensional correlations in space and time to create new rules that we hadn't tested before. And that's the beauty of machine learning. You can learn back from it. It's not all roses when it comes to AI. I told you all the niceties. Machine learning has its own infirmities. What if the data is wrong? What if there's bias in data? Recently, a machine learning algorithm was found to prefer male applicants because the data it was trained on was of sexist hiring managers. Moreover, if you had words like MIT or Stanford, you're sure to pass that AI hiring barrier. So you know what to do next. Have these words in a small font on your resume. So there's also an issue of liability. Who is liable if the machine learning goes wrong? Is it the data scientist or the clinician blindly following AI recommendations? The regulation is too slow to catch up with an exponential growth in machine learning research. Did you know that AI or machine learning can also cheat you? It takes shortcuts to reaching the right answer, but not always the right process. For example, a model that was trained to identify fractures in an X-ray image does so by not looking at what you expect it to look at. That's fractures, bones, and skulls. It looks at a code and reads it off at the edge of the X-ray that says fracture. The future is not certain when it comes to AI or machine learning. We are in an era where electrons outperform ions, both literally and figuratively. Industrial revolution was about automating labor. But what we see now are processes that compete with the human mind. Machine learning can also trick you, especially if you don't pay attention to its blind spots. The picture that you see is me, but more than me. I never had this hair. It's not that I had a haircut for this special day. This is machine learning hair. When cars were invented, governments scrambled to create regulations to weigh risk-reward of bringing cars on roads. A similar thing is going to happen to machine learning. It'll be soon voting on policies to regulate these learning machines. When I say, I save lives, remember, there is always an AI behind the eye. Thank you.